Shreya Korlipara. I'm a sophomore at Doherty Valley High School, and I'm part of the nonprofit organization InTouch. Today, I'm joined by three of my co-founders who are going to introduce themselves right now. Ananya.
Hi.
Oh. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Tarni Raj. I'm also a co-founder of InTouch, and I'm a sophomore at California High School.
Hi, my name's Ananya, and I'm also a co-founder, and I'm also a sophomore at Cal High.
Hi, I'm Mira. I'm also a co-founder, like everyone else, and I'm a sophomore at Cal High.
And we're all really excited to be here. So today we've actually created an interactive slide set with everyone. We're going to have some fun polls in between, just so we can sort of get the audience interacted and we know what's going on and your thoughts as we're presenting. So Mira has just put the link to that in chat. If everybody could just click on that link, and Mira's going to share her screen right now. If you could just put in the join code into the Pear Deck, you'll be able to join the interactive slide set and follow along with us as we present today.
Great.
So the join code is up on the screen right now.
Yeah, and to join, if you don't want to use a link, just search up Pear Deck and you can type in the code and you'll be good to go.
We can start in just a few minutes, maybe when like 15 people have joined onto the Pear Deck.
I think we can get started. Maybe others don't want to join, so that's
okay.
Fine.
Sure. Mira, maybe then you can just keep your screen shared if you'd like that.
Okay, sure. Or I can just take it down and type in the code in the chat if that's better.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Maybe Mira, there might be people who prefer to just see the screen shared rather than just like go on the Pear Deck. So
exactly.
Yeah, if you.
Yeah, I'll share it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Mira, I think we can just go ahead and start in that case.
Okay, cool.
All right, awesome. So hello, everyone. Once again, we are InTouch, a mental health-based nonprofit that has started in April of 2020. We started this organization because we saw that many teens, because of both the pandemic and school stresses and many other reasons, we're facing a multitude of stressors and a variety of different mental health issues. And we wanted to help with this. So we created InTouch, which is an anonymized, free, and accessible service in which teens can interact with one another as well as counselors completely for free. We will share more information about our organization as we move on in the presentation. So once again, we can introduce ourselves.
Okay. So I'm Ananya. I'm a co-founder and the secretary of InTouch, and I'm a sophomore at Cal High.
Hi, again, I'm Mira. I'm a co-founder and head of finance and funding at InTouch. I'm also a sophomore at Cal High.
Hi, I'm Shreya. I'm the co-founder and I manage the workshops and volunteer program at InTouch. More information about that later on. I'm a sophomore at Doherty Valley High School.
Hi, I'm Tarni, and I'm the co-founder and head of PR and marketing for InTouch, and I'm a sophomore at Cal High.
Okay, so to reiterate what Shreya had said, as teenagers, we found that many teens don't have a trusted role model or support system to talk about their mental health issues. And while schools may offer resources, students aren't really likely to go to a school counselor or utilize the mental health resources because they might feel uncomfortable with discussing their mental health due to the stigma that's associated with it. And this, of course, led us to create InTouch, which, as Shreya said, is anonymous, free, and accessible. and it allows teens to get support from professional counselors and peer-to-peer support groups in order to help manage their mental health issues.
Okay, so we also have some interactive questions to keep you guys engaged and stuff. So on your screen, it should show you some options. So how much do you personally care about mental health on a scale from 1 to 5? Just type it in, and it's completely anonymous. So later I can show the responses if you guys want.
Also, if you haven't joined, you could just you could send a chat on Zoom individually to like Mira, so it can still be anonymous if you would like.
Also, I think you can still join because the code is on the top over here where my mouse is. If you want, just search up Peer Deck and type in the code.
So we'll just give everyone a few minutes to respond to that.
Okay, I think I'm ready to show the responses. Cool, nice to see some enthusiasm.
That is great.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about what is mental health from a teenager's point of view. So the dictionary definition for mental health is a person's condition with regard to their physiological and emotional well-being. A person's mental health can change, and this can be both beneficial or detrimental in different ways. There are many different factors that can contribute to a change in an individual's mental health. Example, more or less stress, academic pressures, and peer pressures. These factors can vary from person to person, and it's extremely important to note that one's mental health depends upon the stresses that they experience in their own lives.
Something really important to note about mental health is that it differs from person to person. As it says on the presentation right now, mental health is not a one-size-fits-all. An individual person's problem may not apply to all individuals of all ages and many different backgrounds. This is very important to note because we shouldn't assume what an individual person's problem is. We can all face problems to a certain extent, and that is variable dependent on how our mental well-being is in a certain point in time. Two people struggling with the same mental illness will not have the same outcomes. People will have different reactions to different things. That is very important to consider when considering an individual's mental health.
Okay, so another great question. Was mental health talked about in your childhood? Again, anonymous, and if you guys want, you can speak up and unmute yourself and talk, or you can type a response in to the responses, and I can share them out loud or just share them so you guys can see what other people are going through.
We'd love to have
Here's a verbal answer, not at all talked about.
Good to know.
Same answer for.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is mental health, right? What do you mean? It wasn't a dictionary word at all.
Yeah, definitely. I think this really changes from person to person as well. Some people from backgrounds, they might have, no experience talking about mental health while others do. So it's really important and really amazing that people are feeling pretty free to share about how it was in their childhood.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see kind of like the generational changes, how it's normal for us to kind of talk about mental health and we're a lot more comfortable with it versus you guys who've never even talked about it in your childhood. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Mira, if there are any responses on the slides that you would like to share out. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So you guys can read them if you want. Some people are still typing it in, so.
Do you want to read them out, Mira?
Yeah. Okay, so the first time I was introduced to the topic in mental health and had conversations about it was in high school, which is pretty much the same with me. I
would say in high school it becomes pretty relevant. Maybe even in middle school, just a little bit you could have talked about it, but I feel like high school is where people really start to focus on it.
Yeah. Right now, one of the teachers, oh, this person is typing, sorry about that. I want to give you guys some more time because I don't want to rush anyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Here, I'm going to give them a few minutes and let them type it in, and we can move on to the next slide while people type in their answers if you guys want.
Yeah, we can definitely backtrack.
Okay, we can come back to that later.
So relating to that, we're going to talk about the stigma surrounding mental health. We've learned that one main reason that people are reluctant to seek out for mental health support is because of the stigma surrounding it. This stigma can prevent people from recognizing when they need help. Sometimes people think bringing up mental health issues is weak or they feel shameful about it, but really asking for help is the only way to overcome mental health issues. The biggest way to reduce the stigma is to talk about mental health. The more we talk about it, the more people will listen. By talking about our mental health, people will feel more comfortable in seeking for help. Normalizing these types of conversations will ensure that they're not alone.
I think we might have to go back. People can't type if we're not on that slide.
I'm so sorry about that. We can wait on this slide a little more. I apologize.
That's okay. Let's give them 2 minutes and then we can go to the next.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fine.
definitely.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but just talking about the points that Tarni brought up, like the main, one of the things that is like key in improving your mental health and like feeling slightly better is talking to people about it. And it also helps reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. You know, everything goes to something. There's nothing wrong with you. Talking about it can also help people feel better, you know?
And that's exactly what we as InTouch are trying to do. We understand that a lot of people may not feel comfortable just coming out and talking about it while others do. And that's why we wanted to create this anonymous service in which individuals can just feel free to hop on some kind of a group and just talk about their feelings. And our website is completely dedicated to, just talking about anything and everything. So if you're one of those individuals who feels that you're not very comfortable talking about your mental health problems with someone else directly, you can definitely feel free to do so if you would like on our website.
Okay, so there are also some responses in the chat as well, so you can read those too.
Okay, so for the first one, to some extent, yes, my parents care, but it isn't treated as a huge thing. They talk about the importance of a healthy mind, but they don't treat mental illness as a huge issue. Also, it is something that runs in the family, but only my aunt and I have been diagnosed. Recently, we've talked a lot more. My teacher talks about it a lot, and I talk about it with my friends too. That's good to know that you're talking about it, but sorry, give me 1 second, I'm rereading it. Yeah, that's the issue that a lot of people run into where you kind of talk about it lightly, but it isn't treated as something to be diagnosed. And so like you're feeling sad, that's it. You can talk about it, but like when it comes to something like depression, that's a huge other step that people tend to like shy away from.
Yeah, I also feel like people mainly focus on like physical health as being somewhat like the main thing, when like mental health is like just as important.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the last one, right now, one of my teachers is very willing to talk about it to us and any struggles we're going through. It's great to know that there are people out there who are having these difficult conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's special when like schools should have the right mental health care because a lot of students like confide with their teachers and other peers there. So schools needing the right mental health care is really important.
There's also a response in the chat if you want to read that.
I can read that one out loud.
Okay.
So there are a few responses in the chat. So Divya says, quarantine has definitely made me care about my mental health more. And I think that's really good. I feel that this quarantine has sort of gone either way for people. A lot of people are just, letting their mental health go down. They're not caring for themselves, which makes me really sad. But Divya, I'm really glad to see that, you're caring about your mental health a lot more. And then there's another response here that says that we never heard about it when I was growing up, and I never knew what it means to feel stressed and anxious. And sometimes when I felt scared of those feelings, I guess what this person is trying to say is that you never really had like a space to talk about it. And I think that's the case in many different communities, unfortunately. There isn't really a very open space to be talking about mental health, but we at InTouch want you to know that no matter where you are, there are people who are out there who care about you. There are people out there who love you, and we want you to know that you should definitely feel free to just talk about your problems with them, or like actually, or start a conversation about what's going through your head with them, because there are people out there, who genuinely care about you and your feelings. And that's really important to know, especially throughout high school and the rest of your life.
Yeah, and okay, thank you guys for responding and chatting. It's really great that you're taking the initiative and talking to us with this, and it makes the presentation all the more interesting. And yeah, a lot of people don't talk about it, and things like facing stress for the first time and being anxious, it can just be like signed off as just having a bad day or something, and when it repeatedly happens, you're wondering like what's wrong, what's going on. So it's really important to talk about these and like bring awareness.
And so to sort of like segue into that, Ananya is now going to talk about sort of building off common symptoms that may affect one's mental health. So take it away, Ananya.
Okay, so though someone's mental health depends on like individual factors that occur in their own lives, there's some common things that we've noticed that happens among teenagers. And so teenagers nowadays are put under a lot of like pressure academically and socially. And a lot of teenagers may have high expectations from either their parents or just on themselves. And either way, this can like seriously affect mental health, and it should be addressed. So some factors that we've noticed that especially affect teen mental health are grades and academic pressure, peer pressure, which can also fall under academic pressure, social media, family and friend relationships, unaccepting surroundings, figuring out their gender identity or sexuality, or bullying or bad treatment from friends or school peers. I mean, if any of you guys want to add on, then sure.
Yeah, very well. I'll go back to it. Sorry for flipping through it really fast, but thank you. Very well said, Ananya. And yeah, I don't think we realize that, we sign these off as normal things that everyone goes through, but sometimes it can really affect someone depending on other factors that can pile up in their life. So like realizing that and, noticing that your problems aren't unsignificant because someone is going through worse is like a really important part of improving your mental health.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing, Mira. So we understand that as parents, it might be difficult for you to approach your children about their mental health. And it might be difficult for your own children for them to approach you about their mental health. So in general, you have this environment where it's just very difficult to have a discussion about this very important topic. And we know that, the environment that you live in sort of varies from family to family. However, as teens, this is sort of our perspective on the environment that you can sort of foster and create, sort of like a safe space in which your kids may feel more inclined to tell you or other people about their problems, or just make like a safer place for them to feel free to discuss about their mental health. Just to reiterate what we've been saying throughout this entire presentation, it's really, really important to talk about what's on your mind. This significantly affects a person, not only how they behave on a day-to-day basis, but how they treat other people, how this affects their schoolwork, their entire life. And talking through their problems can really, really help them. So here are some general ways to approach your kids if you notice changes in their mental health. So the first is approaching the topic casually, sort of just bringing up the conversation of mental health in a conversational manner can really help your kid feel more comfortable about talking about their own mental health. And I think a big part of this has to do with the parent sort of sharing their perspective on how their mental health is right now, sort of just having like a conversation on what went wrong in your day, maybe like what was good in your day, sort of just creating a very like nice conversational environment can help your kid to feel more inclined to talk about their problems. Sort of following up with that is not pushing your kid to reveal their problems. By doing this, by sort of nagging your kid to sort of talk about their problems, you sort of have this sort of rhetoric that's going on in which you're sort of forcing your kids to reveal their problems. However, this is not the environment that you exactly want to create. Your kids should feel free to talk about their problems to you. They should be coming to you with their problems. So not pushing them to reveal their problems can actually allow them to feel more inclined to talking about their problems. The next one is my personal favorite. Don't lecture them. I'm sorry to say this, but every kid does not like getting lectured by their parents. I'm not going to lie when we say that sometimes there is times where we need to be lectured. However, when talking about mental health, it should be a completely conversational tone. We should not be in an environment in which we feel that we did something wrong, especially in a situation in which the problem that we're going through isn't entirely our fault. So not sort of creating this very teacher-like or parent-like environment when discussing mental health really helps a kid, feel free to talk more about their problems. And adding on to that, not blaming your kid and making it seem like it's their fault is another way to do this. And the last one is personally what I think is the most important. And this is sort of the most difficult thing that I've seen that parents have to go through, especially when talking about mental health with their children. The thing is, children may not feel comfortable telling their parents everything and anything going on in their lives. There are many different things that a kid goes through that they might want to keep personally to themselves or within their immediate friend group, and sort of pushing them to reveal all of their problems may affect a kid negatively in the long run. So unfortunately, it is the case that your kid might not feel like they want to tell you everything going on in their lives. However, eventually, if you create an environment in which you foster love and care as opposed to telling them what they're doing right and wrong, your kid will sort of feel more comfortable and inclined to tell you everything that's going on in their lives. I think
there's also a question in the chat. So
the question, does this impact different to girls versus boys? And for that, I would say no. I think it more differs from problem to problem rather than girl versus boy. And all the points that Shreya made from the slide, I think goes well for any kid. So
I agree with you, Tarni, but I also feel like maybe it might also, because like someone like Divya just said in the chat, boys are often expected to like be manly, and they're not, and I feel like they're taught that they're not allowed to be vulnerable. So it might be harder to get like a boy to open up to you more. But yeah, like Avani also said, it's definitely more stigmatized for boys.
Yeah, I agree.
It might be harder, but it's still something that's important to talk about.
Yeah, I especially think mental health is extremely stigmatized for boys. And I guess there's a whole stereotype where if a boy cries, they're a wimp or something, So it's very hard for, I think it's harder for boys and girls to open up about their mental health, especially.
But it's like, regardless of gender, like, it doesn't matter. You should still
these problems are regardless of gender, but I think mental health, it's harder for boys to open up than girls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And we as InTouch, once again, I'd like to reiterate this. No matter who you are, whether you're a boy or a girl, no matter what background you're from, I just wanted to reiterate that there are people out there who do care about you. And I know that for some individuals, it may be more difficult to open up. And I agree that this might go a little bit with gender and stereotypes. But if you feel that you have a problem that you need to get off your mind, just know that, you know, we at InTouch are always here for you to like open up to, as well as there are many people in your life that care about you. So you should definitely feel free to open up about your problems to others.
Okay, next question. What's your opinion on mental health and its association with racism? You can type it in a response or type it into the chat and we can kind of reflect on it and have a conversation.
Yeah, we'll give you some time because we all really do think this is an interesting topic. So.
This topic is kind of hard to talk about, especially in light of the climate going around in the world right now, but I think it's important to bring up and have a conversation about.
So I feel in the world that we are living in, which is very, very polarized, it's gotten even harder for kids from minority to kind of speak up and stand up for themselves. So that may actually impact quite a lot if they were already suffering.
Yeah, exactly. We're actually going to touch on that a bit, but especially with the political climate right now and how the world is going, I feel like stereotypes, especially on race, are very forced in, and it kind of makes everyone want to conform to a certain stereotype in order to be associated with that group. I'll touch on this a bit later, but yeah, definitely what's going on right now in the world, it's affecting people's mental health and how they're kind of responding and how they're kind of growing up.
Yeah, I definitely agree a lot with that. Thank you so much for sharing. We love whenever there's interaction from the audience because we like to hear other people's thoughts on this. So if you guys want to type in the chat on this, or if you guys want to talk about it in the Pear Deck, or simply like unmute your mic and talk about it, we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, I'm just going to check the responses right now.
I'm so glad there's so many nice responses.
Okay, I'll start to read them off. I'm really excited. But I think there's a correlation between the two based on personal experiences. Racism is a type of action that makes people feel like they don't belong and fit in, which in turn deteriorates their mental health and well-being, which I completely agree with. It's not really, I feel like those two aren't really talked about together, how racism can have an impact on your mental health, but I feel like it certainly shapes you into who you are. And for the next one, definitely a lack of resources for POC. I completely agree. When it comes to therapists, many are not culturally aware or enough to help POC patients. Many are also quick to dismiss mental health when it comes to POC and say that they are overreacting. Not to mention the stigma within communities of color as well.
Oh, definitely.
I also agree with. I think for POC especially, it's definitely different as you due to personal experiences, but in general, I feel like those emotions are very undermined because I feel like people are like, oh, you don't have to be sad, you know, you're just overreacting. It's very unnecessary. I think that's certainly a big thing that happens within these communities, especially with when it comes to therapists, them not being culturally aware enough to help with those situations. That's certainly a big problem.
Yeah, sort of just to bounce off what Mira was saying, in our InTouch website as well, we sort of recognize this problem that, there's a huge lack of resources for people of color. And I know that specifically for people of color, they might specifically experience stress or like mental health issues based on like all of the things that exist in our society against them. So we have included on our website a page that's specifically dedicated to, resources for people of color, for LGBTQIA plus minorities. And if you would like, you can always feel free to access those. I can leave the link into chat if anyone would like it.
Okay, for the next one, I think that mental health for a certain race, ethnicity may differ, and the cultural stereotypes play a huge role. I also think that the segregation and constant news cause many kids to be upset and overwhelmed. Many people on social media also feel pressure to respond in a certain way, which I also agree with.
I definitely think recently racism and everything has been really prevalent in the media because of the whole Black Lives Matter movement, obviously. So yeah, I do think that a lot of kids might feel like overwhelmed or upset with all the stuff that's happening.
Yeah, especially
I think
sorry,
teenagers have become more they've become more aware of like things that are going on, especially recently, and social media is a big gateway for that. So they're becoming they like know more about stuff, and they're becoming more of activists, I guess, which can like really affect them and like negatively and positively based off the backlash that they receive.
Yeah, and I also feel like social media especially shows you like a tunnel of what you only want to see. It's it doesn't show everyone all views and what everything's going on in the world. So it causes people to be very passionate because they think that there's a lot of people that think their way, if that kind of makes sense. So it might overwhelm people, especially like teenagers and kids on social media, because like things can get pretty heated on there.
Yeah, definitely. Before we move on, there was a question in the chat that I wanted to address really quickly. So someone in the chat had said, my daughter stays up very late at night and has a hard time to focus. She has anxiety symptoms, but refuses to seek third-party help. How should I ease her anxiety? So first of all, thank you so much for asking this question to us, and thank you for your participation in this. We really appreciate it. Unfortunately, due to school pressures, I know that there are a lot of my friends as well who stay up really late at night, and that causes them anxiety too. And personally, what I find that helps is that every day, if you induce something or include something into your daughter's day that just makes her smile, that just makes her day better, to sort of make her forget about what's going on in school, sort of just an activity that's separate from school completely. And if you engage her in that activity every day, I feel that that takes a lot of anxiety off her mind. That might take a lot of anxiety off her mind. I think sort of just deviating your mind from thinking about one thing such as school and thinking about another thing and participating in an activity that's completely different from just academics can really help you feel less anxious about what's going on.
Also, I'd like to add, what Shara said earlier about like how to approach your kid. I feel like those are good tips that you should use to try to approach her and have a conversation, obviously if you're comfortable with it, and just try to like normalize the conversation within your household about mental health, so it might be easier for her to seek out for help in the future.
Also, if your daughter might not feel comfortable, of course, InTouch is always an option because it's anonymous and she can still, if she's comfortable, have a way to like talk about how she feels.
Yeah, and adding on to Shreya's point, doing a simple thing like going on a walk or exercising a bit might help. Oh, wait, she responded in the chat if you guys want to read.
All right, so I tried to play board games during the lunchtime with her, but most of the time she stayed in front of her computer. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, unfortunately, some kids are very focused on school, but I think sort of a way to address this is perhaps maybe a change of environment. For example, rather than playing board games with her during lunch, maybe just bring her lunch directly to her room and be like, hey, can we just eat lunch and maybe just talk about your day or something like that? Maybe sort of just induce a conversation with her in that way. Does anyone else have anything to add on?
Yeah, maybe like start a TV show with her or something together, so you guys can start to get an activity that distracts her a bit. Because I feel like that's something kind of normal that everyone can do, and not stress about having to, force her off of what she's kind of being anxious about. So yeah.
Perhaps if she's playing, like if she likes to, use her computer more, maybe one thing that you could do is like how Mira said, just watch a TV show together. Perhaps another thing is like maybe just play an online game. Yeah.
If she has any particular like interest, maybe take interest in her interest. Like have her talk to you about her interest, because I find that's a really good way to get your mind off things.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. We really appreciate it. That's awesome. Yeah. If she would like to connect with any of us, just please feel free. Rather, even if it's not directly with InTouch itself, we would love to meet her and maybe.
Of course. Oh, there's from a different person. There's another one.
Yeah. So this individual says that my parent makes me go outside even if I choose to do homework there. Not only does it make me try something not normal in my daily routine, it also gives serotonin, which helps my mood. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, having a change of environment, like getting up and like getting away from your screen is very nice.
Yeah, I go through the same thing. Sometimes my parents force me to walk out, and usually I don't want to go out because I'm busy doing something else. But it just makes you feel better after somehow.
Yeah, I think especially teenagers nowadays are like sticking to the same routine constantly, especially with online school. So having like different changes of paces, like going outside once in a while, can be really good for them.
Mira, do you want to read the other responses?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if I have an opinion. The gut reaction is perhaps nothing to do with racism, but then that seems quite simplistic. Perhaps racism equals economic state equals education and nutrition, and maybe leads to a relationship.
I'm not sure if I completely understand what they mean.
I'm slightly confused too, but let me just reread that in my head.
If they could clarify, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one, I want to believe though that it's independent of race. Okay. I think I slightly disagree with that. While some things are independent of race with mental health, and some things are based off genetics, I think that racism specifically does have impacts on your mental health. Cool. Do you guys want to move on now to the next slide?
Sounds good to me.
So, stereotypes, and this is kind of me talking about it more, but stereotyping can lead to self-stereotyping, which in turn can affect how someone acts in response to them wanting to be included into a certain group, which I kind of touched on before. People can start to adapt stereotypes generally associated with a group in order to feel more included. This can also kind of chip away on their self-confidence and how they perceive themselves, because they feel like they have to like act a certain way to fit in and make friends with certain type of people. Yeah.
So, sorry, Mira, but I was just gonna say, so in our experience, like, we all kind of feel that we and many other like first generation immigrant kids personally have felt some kind of stress on our mental health due to our race, because sometimes since we were raised in America, we kind of feel like we're either like not Indian enough, but then we also feel like we're not American enough because we're still like people of color. So
just to add on. Oh, sorry, Mira.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add on something. I believe it was that when people of color were younger, it was sort of very normalized in American culture to, dress a certain way or behave a certain way. And when we felt that we couldn't conform to those stereotypes, we felt very inferior about ourselves, which caused a lot of stress then. That was just to sort of like reiterate what Ananya had said and sort of what my own personal experience was as well. And this is Mira's personal experience. So
yeah. So I moved from America to India when I was younger, and then back to America, I think when I was in 4th grade. So I received kind of a big cultural shock, but it was 4th grade, so it wasn't that big. But first, I think subconsciously, I really struggled with becoming American enough. And then in wanting to distance myself subconsciously from my culture, because I thought that, because I wanted to make friends, and I felt like that I wasn't fitting into the culture over here and the kind of American feel. But as I've grown older a bit, I feel like I've also gotten slightly disconnected from how I was before and when I used to live in India, and kind of that part of me. So it's this weird balance of not knowing where you kind of stand, because you feel like you're not American enough, but you feel like you're not Indian enough in my personal experience. So I'm still kind of figuring that out, but I feel like it really does have an impact on the kind of person you grow up to become and your personal views and how you kind of see the world.
Yeah. To like sort of add on to that, like even when I was younger, just even like small things like in elementary school, like at lunch, I have like some more like Indian foods that like other kids like they have no idea what it is. So maybe I kind of felt like self-conscious about that because I wasn't like everybody else. And also I think Tarni, you would have a good thing to say about like us being kind of Americanized.
Yeah, so I think growing up, again, like what Mira said, we try to disconnect from our culture because we want to fit in with like other kids. And I think that like makes us more Americanized, and like now, like growing up, like when we grow up, we want to be more intact with our culture, but we just can't because we still have that disconnect from when we were younger. And it's such a big identity thing because a lot of like first generation kids go through it, most of them do. And it's like, it's nice to have other people to talk about it as well, but it's also hard to deal with yourself. It's like, when are you going to grow up and realize that your culture is, you should embrace it and not try to push it down. So yeah, it's a really good point.
Exactly. And thank you all for sharing. I can definitely relate to some extent to all of your experiences. And I hope this is really telling that, once again, mental health is not a one size fits all. You know, we're not always affected by school. We're not always affected by what's going on in our home life or in our friend group. As teenagers, this is the time when each of us are trying to still figure out who we are. You know, we're trying to figure out a way to like embrace ourselves for who we are. We're trying to embrace our culture, our gender identity, you know, who we are as a person. And I hope this is really telling of like the way that this can cause stress upon a teenager, which is just yet another reason as to how, you know, racism and like other things in the world can affect an individual's mental health, not just, you know, academic experiences or personal.
Sorry, if I could like quickly add on to that, I feel like another thing that like contributes is like a lot of like parents or just adults in general think that we're too young to be experiencing these kinds of feelings, when I feel like it doesn't really matter how old you are, because you can still have outside things that stress you out or like have mental health issues. So like I just feel that you're never too young to be figuring out who you are, and especially as a teenager, you like is the time to figure out who you are. So
Definitely.
Cool, on to the next slide. And any comments or questions you guys have based on stereotypes you've faced on yourselves? You know, this can be like facing a stereotype when applying for a job or something, or just like, you know, everyday interactions. Especially because you guys, most of you guys said that you haven't really talked about mental health when you were younger. So, you know, how that kind of impacted how you faced the stereotypes personally.
Feel free to either type this in the chat on the Pear Deck or even unmute your mic if you want to.
Thanks for participating, guys, as always, and we'll give everyone like a few minutes.
Are you expecting comments from youth only, or can an adult also comment on this one?
Anyone can
adult too, anyone here.
I just joined right now, and I'm involved with a similar thing in West Valley. We are trying to create a youth forum where we can discuss these kinds of things. Just listening to last few minutes, I'm amazed. I mean, I raised my kids. I never thought of things that you guys are talking about. Didn't think that there would be any pressure on them, but now I realize they probably went through, and this was like 20 years before. They were in school, in high school. When did they go to high school? 89 to 94. My son went, and even before that in middle school. I mean, I think these things start pretty early, the feeling of being different. So I didn't pay any attention to it. I mean, they came out okay, but I do see now the kind of, stereotypes and the differences you go through. I'm just shaken up by it, what you guys were talking about. So keep sharing these things, work with each other, help each other. That to me, that actually seems like a solution, that if we could, pair people together, a junior with a senior, or a, freshman with and you walk, when you're together and you're sharing things, you learn from each other and handle things better. Is that a possible, this thing that we should be doing that more?
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate that. We're really glad that, this is sort of like makes people understand, what we're going through and how we're feeling. So actually what you had brought up about pairing people together, our InTouch website actually sort of has a program dedicated to that. It's peer-to-peer counseling. Anyone who would like to discuss about anything and everything can go to our website. There's a little place for peer counseling. And there will be a peer counselor who can help you and talk to you about this. They're about the same age as you. So if you would like to do that, I can leave the link to the website in the chat. Well,
actually, what I'd like you to do is come tomorrow. We have another group. Share these things. Be part of that group tomorrow. Because there was, the reason we started that group in West Valley. West Valley is the Saratoga, Cupertino, Sunnyvale area. There was one kid who had committed suicide, a high school kid, and he had left a note saying, "I have no friends." That was the main reason he did that. And we're all shaken up because of that one. And we're, trying to form these kinds of groups that help each other. And of course, we have professional, people also who can help. And not tomorrow, we have a high school counselor from Monte Vista High School in Cupertino who has helped many kids because he has realized how serious this problem is. So we have help available from various sources. There are many, other counselors, mental health people that are available in our community who have offered their help. So that's also available. But I'd like you guys to join that tomorrow and, share it with other kids in other schools as well. And if we can help each other, that'll be the best thing, the community can do. And
sharing that with us. I'm incredibly sorry to hear what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this program is associated with ICC or not. I am on the board of ICC, India Community Center, and we are providing that platform for all youth to communicate with each other, share things, share stories, do your music programs, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of power available in the community. We can, give you resources, definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're so incredibly honored to be hearing that. Thank you so much. It's a huge compliment. We would love to help the community in any way possible. So that's definitely something that we should discuss, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can shoot us an email.
Yeah.
I would like to get, how do I get tomorrow's link to you guys so you can join in tomorrow? And then,
we might have to discuss a little bit.
Yeah, you can shoot us an email.
We'll put our email in the chat so you can send us an email and then we'll get back.
Okay.
I can send them an email. We can talk.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm extremely sorry to hear about that student, though.
Yeah. We have like 8 minutes. We might want to start trying to wrap up.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me show the responses really quick. Okay, I can read them off. So the first one, many instances where others have assumed certain aspects of our prejudice, out of prejudice stereotypes. I attribute most of them to deep-rooted perceptions of a class of people and believe most were not conscious in that nature, which I completely agree with. I don't think, I think majority of people do not want to be racist or have stereotypes against others, but it's human nature to have prejudice and to have these stereotypes built in our head. It's how you perceive people, but unfortunately we can't really do anything about it. But when it comes to things like racism, that's when something like racism and heavy prejudice, that we can do something about that, and just noticing how it does affect our mental health is a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Everyone has a racial bias to some extent, but the main point is to acknowledge that you have that and work towards acting against it.
Yeah. So the next one, the sentiment that if you keep ignoring a problem, it goes away. Mental health can get worse if it keeps getting pushed down. I realize it's super important to address issues and connect with a support system, even if it seems scary. Taking small steps helps. Yes,
Yeah,
it
sorry.
does.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that to kind of tie in how before we kind of said oh, you're just sad or you're having a bad day. It's usually just pushed down, ignored, and you think it's gonna go away eventually. But with mental health, yeah, it does get worse if you keep pushing it away, and it's better to talk about it.
I'd really like to echo what Ananya just said. Don't bottle up your feelings. If you have anything, you have our resources, you have people out there who care about you. So please talk about your problems or express yourself in some way, but just don't bottle up your feelings. It's really important to not do that.
Yep, the next one. One stereotype I faced was being Asian, expected to get great grades and get into a good college. Yeah, that does really exist, especially as you're applying for college, and the subtle pressure that teachers can kind of put onto you, that can show up sometimes. It does exist and it does affect us. And then the next one, since I'm hurrying up, since we're tight on time, I sometimes see people saying that everyone feels anxious or depressed from time to time. I also hear people using the language of suicide, depression, bipolar as a trend or a basic mood. Some people also degrade mental illness. They also think that it's important, that they also don't think it's as important and as serious as it is. Yeah.
If I could quickly comment on this. So for the first part with people saying everyone feels anxious or depressed, I do feel like people don't use the terminology correctly. And while you can be depressed, it doesn't mean you are depressed. Those are different things. And I just feel also a lot of people take emotions very hyperbole. They make it way more exaggerated than it actually is. And then for the second part with as a trend or basic mood, I do think recently with social media and everything, people kind of romanticize mental health or make it seem like it's a trend, which it really isn't. And it's something that's really serious, and it should be treated seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but sort of just backtracking on the one that previously was said, the stereotype about being Asian, expected to getting good grades and getting into a good college. I'm lucky to never have gone through that in our lives. I'm thankful to have parents who are very understanding about my academic life and how I'm doing in school. I'm very thankful to also have friends who understand that. But I know that that's not the case for everyone. And that's sort of the thing that we at InTouch, we sort of want to break that. We want to break these stereotypes where people are just put to such high expectations that they never feel like they're enough. And this is such a huge thing that, parents or the kid's superiors sort of put on them. And this can really take a toll on a kid's mental health, because even if you don't mean it, even if you think that, you're doing this for the kid's own benefit, this can really take a toll on their mental health, because they won't feel like they're enough to satisfy their parents' expectations, which will really affect them in the long run. Something else I wanted to add is that it's very stereotyped that it's only parents that put this kind of pressure on kids. However, something that that I've noticed, especially in certain schools, is that, you know, there's also a lot of peer pressure to be doing well academically. You know, if you don't do well in school, that equates to not being able to get into a good college, which equates to being able to not get into a good job. That's been sort of normalized in schools, and we don't want that to be normalized. You know, people have, you know, their own ways of achieving their own success, and that's sort of something that we really want to promote as a nonprofit organization dedicated to mental health.
Yeah, that was great, Shreya. That was really good. And coming back to the last one really quick, I definitely think that recently there's been that trend of romanticizing mental health and serious issues. And I feel like sometimes people use it for clout on social media, but it definitely exists. And but in some ways, I feel like it's beneficial to bringing up those illnesses, like mental health issues, and bringing awareness around it. But there's also that thing around bringing the wrong kind of awareness and kind of making it seem better than it actually is.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have one more question, but we have to do pretty quickly.
So if you just have any questions regarding mental health in general or for us, please feel free to unmute your mic and ask us, or just do the regular way we collect responses.
Yeah, I really like to thank you guys for coming here and for, you know, to be willing to talk about mental health in the first place. And you guys really participated really well, so I was really happy.
Yeah, we're really glad that people were able to like talk to us and have a good conversation.
Can I just add one comment or make it a question? How do we get your parents into this kind of a session where we can, just the parent session, maybe training them, hey, don't put so much pressure on your kids. How do we do that? Will they be willing to come to these kinds of sessions?
I think that there are a few parents in the crowd here today, so I think that that's definitely a first step. Share this session, share this information with other parents. You know, getting the word out there is one really good way. Does anyone else have any other ideas?
Yeah, just you know, creating workshops like this and having parents come in. That's like one of the ways I can think about, and pretty much what Shreya said.
And
keep talking to your parents. Tell them, go attend a class, take a seminar like this one.
I just want to add one more thing as a parent. I think that's an excellent point that you bring up, that parents actually need to have an education as well. Because what I've realized just listening to this session is, although when I was growing up, mental health was not really talked about, or you know, it was never brought up. You know, so we were probably facing different kinds of issues with that. But then the kids here, you know, who are the first, the kids of the first immigrant kids, right? They actually have a lot of issues that they are going through, which we don't realize at all because it's very different for them. For example, when you talk about stereotypes and when you talk about identity issues, right? Like these are something that are completely new for parents. I think parents need to be educated on that you know, that it's not always about stress and anxiety, but there are things other than stress and anxiety that we need to understand what the current teens are going through, especially the ones that are coming from immigrant parents. I think they have a whole set of issues, and so we need to understand that. So getting the parents into these sessions are equally important. And if you have any, you know, if you have any programs, let us know. But
tomorrow,
I think maybe,
this time, 7 o'clock. There is a program tomorrow, 7 o'clock. I'll send you information.
Yeah,
we have,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. And maybe if InTouch also, if you want to start some, I don't know if you already have something for parents, but maybe there should be something there too,
okay.
right? Yeah, and if you can share that info, that'll be great. We would love to attend that session too tomorrow.
I will send in my email here. Please get in touch with me, because we really have you know, a parent, a daughter and a mother coming together to talk about their story, how they got around that. So so it should be a good session. So I'm sending my email right now. Anybody wants to.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys. This was awesome. I mean, you guys.
Thank you.
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
And if
thank you
anyone-
for your input.
Thank
Yeah, we
you,
looked at-
Vanita, for sending me that link. I'm glad I joined.
Thank you, girls. You all were great.
Very good.
Absolutely awesome presentation.
Very good job.
Thank you. Oh, really quick,
Well,
I'd
was
just like
also-
to,
Like, you know, it was not one-sided, so very interactive. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. And if anyone has any questions, just feel free to reach out to us on our website or in the email. All of the information is in the chat. Let me know if you'd like me to research.
really quick, I'd like to answer some questions that we got. I'm presenting them right now, but what are the specific services InTouch can provide for people interested in mental health? Shreya, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a few different services. So the first service that we have is just a general mental health care service that we provide on our website. It's completely free. We've partnered with a few pro bono organizations that can help individuals care for their mental health. All you have to do is go to our website. The instructions are all on there. Take a quick 30-second survey, and we'll be able to match you up with the specific counseling resource that you need. It's completely free. We also have the peer counseling source that I talked about the other day, that I talked about a few minutes ago. And then we also have peer support groups on our website itself, which any teen can feel free to reach out to. Our service is entirely anonymized and entirely free. So whenever you would like to use it, just go ahead to the link that's in the chat.
And how to get more involved with us, and also how do we help our community and those around us? So to get involved with our club, like Shreya said, do everything that she said and check out our website. And you can also volunteer for us and kind of help us out and help us find some pro bono counselors and volunteer for us. And to help our community and help those around us, it's kind of just talking to people and bringing up this topic like we did today. I was really impressed with how everyone was, pitching into the conversation. That was great. And, just having a conversation. I think that's all that's all that it takes, is bringing up the topic.
Also, sorry, but I would love, like we mentioned before, I'd love to have like different presentations or like forums and stuff with parents or just other people, so we can spread more awareness about this.
We want to hear everyone's thoughts.
Also one more thing. You can join our forums on our InTouch website. And also, if you want to help the community, you can become a peer supporter and actually talk to people who are struggling. So that's a really good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I think tonight was definitely a great first step into sort of like inducing a conversation about mental health. I'm really glad. Thank you so much, ICC, for providing us with this opportunity.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you all were amazing. And I have one question for you. How old are you all? I can't imagine. I know, the knowledge you have is just amazing.
Yeah, we're 15, and then Mira is 16.
I'm 16.
15 going to 50. I can tell that.
Absolutely.
This is amazing. Absolutely right, Richie. These girls are very mature. Very, very mature. So proud of you.
We need
so proud of
people like you in our community, and I'm sure, we'll make a big difference step by step for sure.
You are going to be great people. They are going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll definitely get in touch with
you for being a part of this and, making it more interactive and being part of the discussion. Thank you so much.
Ruchi, you have information on them, how we can promote tomorrow's session?
Yes,
get it out to them?
I will.
Thank you. That takes care of the problem.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
All right.
Great job.
Everybody. Good night.
I'm so glad I joined.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for showing up. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the conversations. It was really great.
Thank you.
Yes. And thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. It was really great for you guys to host this.
Yeah, we're very grateful.
And, I'd like to volunteer, so I'll get in touch with you separately. And
of course.
Definitely.
Yes, that'd be
great. Of course.
I
look forward to it.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.